So I started playing Magic the Gathering back in 2019 in Ravnica Allegiance. This was the middle set of the final 3-set structure, also known as a block of Magic the Gathering. It was Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance, and then finally concluding with the War of the Spark. Now, I personally think that this 3-set block is one of the best times to be introduced to Magic the Gathering. Firstly, it's on Ravnica, one of the most popular sets of Magic. And Ravnica has always, except for the last time we went there, done a really good job of introducing the color pie via the 10 guilds, the 10 different 2-color pairs. It also introduced how dramatic the story can be. It showed us the War of the Spark. It shows us that the story is important to Magic the Gathering. And finally, this 3-block set was just pretty fun in the limited and standard environment, which I dove into right away. Now, one side effect of joining at this time is that I absolutely love Planeswalkers. They're so unique and cool and a fun little mini game to play, and I loved pulling so many of them in the sealed environment of War of the Spark. My love of Planeswalkers has been really weird, because over the last 5 years since then, Planeswalkers have just been kind of meh. They've been messy. To me, the problem with Planeswalkers has been how many Planeswalkers they were introducing in 2019 and through 2022, and then suddenly shifting to barely using Planeswalkers at all after March of the Machines. It's very jarring, it's very confusing, and in this video, I will uncover the secret reasons for why Planeswalkers are shifting out of the meta. So for this first section, I will do it in year-by-year analysis. So first, 2019, there were 9 new Planeswalkers, and that is a lot. But it had War of the Spark in it, which is the perfect set to introduce new Planeswalkers. But the first set in 2019 that introduced a new Planeswalker is Ravnica Allegiance. It introduced Domri Raid, and he was utilized fairly well. His story was quite simple. He's a new Planeswalker that is working for Nicol Bolas, and then in the next set, he was killed by Nicol Bolas for his spark. A very small little minor side villain, and it was pretty nice. But next, we get into War of the Spark, which is where 6 new Planeswalkers were introduced. So here they are. Going down the list, first is Davriel, and Davriel was a pretty cool Planeswalker. I really liked him, but we haven't really seen him since. We saw him in Arena Historic Jumpstart. It's an online-only card, and so that, to me, doesn't really count. Next is Jang Yang-gu, and he and another Planeswalker that is introduced in a future set. I believe it was for the Japanese audience, and they just have never appeared again, and so he's not shown again. Then we have Kasmina. Kasmina later was seen on Strixhaven, and we have not seen her since, but there are some ways that you could use her story. Apparently she is doing something for a secret organization, but Next is Teo Shieldmage, and Teo, just like Davriel, had another card in the Arena Historic Jumpstart, but we haven't seen him in any other actual standard sets, and so not really utilized. Next is the Wanderer, and the Wanderer is a perfect example of what a new Planeswalker should do. It should influence the story in the future some way. Now, similar to all of these different Planeswalkers that were introduced in War of the Spark, this is a perfect point to go, ooh, who's that character? I wonder what they're going to be. I wonder what plane they're from. I wonder how they're going to be involved or incorporated into the story going forward. And all of these other ones weren't that much, and the Wanderer was, and that's great. We see her in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, Phyrexia All Will Be One, and then finally Duskmourn as a creature, which is perfectly fine. The desparking happened. Some Planeswalkers had to be desparked. So overall, the Wanderer was utilized very well, unlike these people. And then next, we have Ashiok. There's an asterisk because Ashiok did appear in a book before War of the Spark, but this is the first card that they got. Later, we see Ashiok again in Theros Beyond Death, and then finally again in Wilds of Eldraine. But in Wilds of Eldraine, I think they were actually Jace. I'm not super clear on that part of the story, but it was very fun. That was a pretty cool part of the story. The next set, I will be including Ren and 6 from Modern Horizons. Now, Ren is a planeswalker that when they planeswalk, they need to join with a tree. And so the next time we see them is Ren and 7 in Midnight Hunt, and then Ren and Realmbreaker in March of the Machines. Now, there are other sets that have new planeswalkers that are in Modern Horizons 2 or other sets that aren't standard. Commander Horizons, yada, yada, yada. I'm not including those planeswalkers like Grist or Jeska or some others because they haven't been featured in standard sets. Ren originated in Modern Horizons 1, but then was in standard sets going forward. So I'm including them here. The final planeswalker for 2019 was in a core set. It is Mu Yang-Ling. Mu Yang-Ling is just like Zhang Yang-Gu in that she only appeared in this one set and hasn't appeared since. And I don't know if they're specifically for the Japanese audience. I knew that there was something about how they were made for Japanese players. And that's really cool, but they just haven't been seen since. And I thought both of these planeswalkers were really cool and was looking forward to seeing them again as a new player. All right, that was all the planeswalkers from 2019. We saw the Wanderer be used very well. We saw Ashiok be used very well. And then the rest of them kind of maybe showed up one more time since then, but most of them haven't. 2020, there were 5 new planeswalkers, kind of 6, but really only 5. The first 2 are in Throne of Eldraine, being Oko. Oko, great villain. Pete kind of hated because of how good his card was, and then he showed up again in Thunder Junction. Pretty cool. Not all characters need to have a super important influence on the story as a whole, but you still want to see them in some way. And Oko, he was the villain of Throne of Eldraine, and then he shows up again as a villainous part in Thunder Junction. And that's pretty great. Next, the Royal Scions. 2 twins that have to planeswalk together. They've been used fairly well as well. They were on Throne of Eldraine, and then they planeswalked to Strixhaven and did some studying there with Kasmina from before. And then later, we see them again on Eldraine in Wilds of Eldraine, this time as creatures because of the desparkening. So they were utilized very well as well. But I would like to point something out. Garruk, why don't they use Garruk? He's one of the original planeswalkers. He's the green planeswalker. He's the OG green planeswalker. And they just never use him. He was missing from War of the Spark. Well, they explained that he had the veiled mask that was keeping him on a different plane, and he didn't care about Nicol Bolas's beacon in War of the Spark. But, like, why haven't we seen Garruk since this? Like, he's the OG green planeswalker. Where's Garruk? He's just not a part of the story anymore. Anyway, justice for Garruk, I don't know. But moving on to new planeswalkers, we have Calix from Theros Beyond Death. And Calix is a really cool planeswalker. He was created by Destiny's Hand to stop Elspeth from escaping the underworld, which is where her destiny is supposed to be. He's a person who keeps destinies in line. And he fails at stopping Elspeth, and Elspeth planeswalks away. And in his failure, he goes, what is my purpose if not to chase Elspeth? And so his planeswalker spark ignites and chases Elspeth. We see a planeswalker's first planeswalk. Really sweet. So in the next set with Elspeth in it, why didn't we see Calix? We didn't see him again until the aftermath of March of the Machines, when he's no longer a planeswalker. They had the perfect, they had the perfect character chasing down a hero because he was created to, and then they just don't have him anymore in the story. Why? I really like Calix, and it's just sad that he wasn't used. Next is Ikoria, and I think this planeswalker was utilized extremely well. It's Luca, Copper Coat, Outcast. He's kind of an anti-hero in most of the sets he appeared in. He was a weird hero in Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths, and then he showed up in Strixhaven, where he is the villain, basically, of the plane. He causes a lot of the trouble on Strixhaven, and then we see him again in Phyrexia All Will Be One, where he was on the hero side, but he got Phyrexianized, and so he's a absolute villain in that story, not by choice, but that's how it happened, and that's where he died. And I think having bad, evil, anti-hero characters that are killed off is perfectly fine. I liked Luca. I'm sad that I won't see him again, but I'm happy for what he was. He was a cool, new, anti-hero, bad boy villain, and now he's gone. And that's okay. The next one, Core Set 2021, Basri Ket. Gosh, I love Basri Ket. I loved playing with his standard card in the core set. They introduced Basri Ket, and it's like, ooh, a new planeswalker from an old plane. How are they going to use him? The answer is they don't. They haven't used him since. Why? Why did you make this guy if you're not going to use him? It's kind of upsetting. And so that was 2020. There's 5 planeswalkers, and they really only used one of them well. Or, well, no. They arguably used the twins, the Royal Scions, and Luca fairly well. Oko, and then Calyx and Basri. Where are they? Why? Next, 2021, there's only 2 new planeswalkers. Both of them from Kaldheim, a new plane. They're going to a new plane. It makes sense to introduce new planeswalkers. And we see a perfect dichotomy of how to underutilize the planeswalker and fairly well utilize the planeswalker. First, we have Nico Aris. He has these new shards that let you scry and draw a card, and it's all about prophecy and not really fate, but more just so predicting the future and the different alternate timelines. Very cool planeswalker. We don't see him again until Duskmourn, the most recent story set. Next, Tyvar Kell. Tyvar Kell was utilized a little bit better. We see him again on Phyrexia, All Will Be One. We then see him as a creature in Duskmourn. Pretty cool planeswalker while he was around. They utilized him a little bit. And that's it. That's all from 2021. The next year, 2022, is where we get 2 new planeswalkers. First, we're going to talk about Quintorius. Quintorius is very simple. He appeared on Strixhaven earlier, but he was a creature at that time. And now we see him get his spark in March of the Machines. And then the de-sparkening happens. So it's like, oh, does he keep the spark? Did he have it for 10 minutes and then it goes away? We later see him on Lost Caverns of Ixalan as a planeswalker, and it perfectly makes sense for why Quintorius is there. He's all about researching history and the past and archaeology. Perfect inclusion, perfect way to utilize a new planeswalker. It's not the main hero, it's not the main villain, it's a side character that helps out in the story. Perfect way to utilize the planeswalker exactly how they need to. Don't put him in a core set, don't put him in a foundation set, include him in a full story set. I don't know what I'm saying. They use Quintorius very well. Now, the other planeswalker was earlier in the year with Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, and it's Kaito. And Kaito, great character. I love the character. Why are they using it so much? Since Kamigawa Neon Dynasty released in February 2022. We then saw him half a year later in July 2022 with a Kaito-themed secret lair. So obviously Kaito was going to be an important character because they gave him a whole secret lair. Then in February of 2023, we see him help the heroes in Phyrexia All Will Be One. Then, a year and a half later, so there's a little break of seeing Kaito, we see him in Duskmourn as a planeswalker. He kept his spark. And then again, 2 months later, he comes out in Foundations again. He was released as a planeswalker in February of 2022. And since then, we have gotten 4 Kaito planeswalkers. What? How? What? That's, it's really cool that they're utilizing a new character and that, everybody, not everybody, I can't say everybody, but a lot of players really like Kaito. I do too. But some of the other planeswalkers that I've recently talked about were introduced years beforehand and have not been seen since. What? Like, where's Mu Yang Ling? Where's Basri Ket? Where's Jang Yang Gu? Where is Davriel? Yeah, he was on Arena Historic Jumpstart. That doesn't count. Where are all these planeswalkers? They don't all have to be as influential as Kaito. Kaito is clearly going to be one of the lead planeswalkers going forward. They've set him up to be so, and that's fine, and that's well and all. But none of these other planeswalkers have gotten anything. Why? Now, obviously, Kaito is the most utilized of all these new Planeswalkers, and I don't dislike Kaito for that. It's just like, where's the love for all of the other ones? But let's move forward. Let's look at all of the new Planeswalkers in 2023. Let's look at all of the new Planeswalkers in 2024. Now, obviously, this makes sense, because in 2023, March of the Machine happened, and that's when a bunch of Planeswalkers got desparked, and so clearly they're showing that they're planning on not using Planeswalkers as much. They're planning on not introducing as many new Planeswalkers, and that's fine. But now, let me introduce you to why I think that's the case. It's Universes Beyond. Not The Walking Dead, but it's Universes Beyond as a whole. Let me explain. So, Wizards of the Coast and the design team of Magic the Gathering, it is known that they design sets a few years in advance for what's coming. They know the overall storyline that's coming out. They design a few years in advance. So let's think about that. The first Universes Beyond set was The Walking Dead. That was announced in September of 2020. Then, the first Commander deck was released a few years later. Commander decks. The first Commander decks was released in October of 2022, a few years later, Warhammer 40k. The first full set where you could draft, you can play, and it also included Commander decks, was Lord of the Rings in June 2023. That was 1 year later. So with those on our timelines, let's look at what the design team might be thinking in terms of Planeswalkers. Planeswalkers are Magic the Gathering only. Like, they were made by Magic the Gathering, in Magic the Gathering, for Magic the Gathering. Planeswalkers appear in Magic the Gathering. They do not appear in Walking Dead. They do not appear in Marvel, except for maybe that character, I don't know. And they do not appear in SpongeBob. Planeswalkers are Magic the Gathering characters only, except for the Dungeons & Dragons ones, but we're tossing that out. If you, in 2018, are told that Walking Dead will be a thing in 2020, and it's, you can't design Planeswalkers for it. It's not a standard site, so you don't need to worry about having a story-themed Planeswalker in it. Whatever. We'll still be doing Planeswalkers in 2020. And then, in 2020, you go, oh, well, Universes Beyond seems to be getting more support. We're still doing Universes Beyond. They plan on doing full Commander decks. Maybe they'll be introducing Universes Beyond stuff to full sets. I can definitely see that being a possibility, in which case there won't be any need for Planeswalker design for those sets. So let's maybe pull back. We've introduced a lot of Planeswalkers in the last 2 years. People are kind of getting sick of it for whatever reason. Let's pull back. Let's not have Planeswalkers be super big. Let's only introduce a few new ones here and there on the new planes. And so they pull back a little. And then in 2021, they find out, hey, guess what? Lord of the Rings is going to be a full set. And also, Universes Beyond has been doing very well so far. So we're probably going to be doing more Universes Beyond in the future. We don't know exactly when, but it's going to be coming. Okay. Well, then let's stop introducing new Planeswalkers. And also, since we're really bogged down with all these new Planeswalkers, we don't know what to do with them, let's despark them all. And then let's also introduce the idea that one Planeswalker will be in each set. Just so that we don't have to overdo it with Planeswalkers. Maybe it'll be a breath of fresh air for everybody, so that they don't have to worry about opening Planeswalkers as much. And then they find out in 2023, oh, look at that. We're introducing full sets of Universes Beyond to Standard now. We said we wouldn't. Whatever. That's... ugh. But it's happening. Well, now, since we've already planned on only having one Planeswalker in every set, it won't feel as disturbing, or it won't feel as much of a shift when we now have 3 standard sets a year that won't have any Planeswalkers because they are Universes Beyond. It all kind of just makes sense. If the future of Magic the Gathering is Universes Beyond, we can't have a Magic the Gathering only card type, mechanic, planeswalker in those sets. So we might as well stop designing as many planeswalkers. And to me, this is a little sad. I really enjoyed planeswalkers, and it's probably because I started with War of the Spark. I really liked planeswalkers. I didn't think there were too many of them. I thought it was really cool how they were introducing new planeswalkers, and it kind of sucked that they weren't utilizing them very well. But to see them just go, nope, no more new planeswalkers because there's barely any planeswalkers left. We don't have to worry about it. You guys don't have to worry about it. It's just kind of sad. Planeswalkers were like the main characters to focus on. Legendary creatures, there's so many of them that I just don't care about them. But a new planeswalker that was really cool, like Basri Ket, I was really invested into it, and I was looking forward to seeing their story. And now, I basically won't. Especially since now there will be less Magic the Gathering story sets. Unless it's just kind of sad. And that's the point that I'm making this video is, could it potentially be that the Universes Beyond phased out planeswalkers? I don't know. Looking at the timeline with a cynical perspective and trying to figure it out as if there's an evil plot, yeah, I could see that being a possibility. Do I believe it? Not so much. Anyways. So, overall, I'm sad that we're going to be seeing even less planeswalkers going forward because of Universes Beyond and the aftermath de-sparkening a lot of the planeswalkers. It's just kind of sad. Well, anyway, what are your thoughts on this video? Did you like? If you did, please subscribe. That's the outro. Goodbye.